pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call the 3 p.m. session of the August 25th, 2020 meeting of the Henry County Board of Supervisors to order. I'd like to welcome everyone. Remind you, if you want to be placed specifically on the agenda, you'll need to contact the county administrator's office at least 7 days in advance of any of our regular meetings. However, we do have an agenda item tonight, matters presented by the public that will allow anyone to address the board. Again, welcome everyone. Our first item of business today is agenda item number 5, items of consent. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the items of consent be approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, it's 6-0, Jennifer. Agenda item 6, monthly report on delinquent tax collection efforts. We have with us County Treasurer Scott Grindstaff. Welcome.
Good afternoon. This is a report, personal property collection as of July 31st, 2020. We had collected 92.9% of the 2019 personal property taxes. The amount collected during the month was $64,290. Real estate collection as of July 31st, 2020, we had collected 94.43% of the 2019 real estate taxes. During the month, we collected $97,819. Since the 1st of January 2020, TACS has collected $550,130, and our debt set off has netted us $137,703. And so far in the month of August, we've had 9 DMV stops. At the last meeting, I told you we had a judicial sale scheduled for July 30th, and that went off, no hitches. We sold everything. The confirmation hearing for those properties is not until September 14th, so there won't be any transfers until that time. And at the present time, my office is working on the 2020 real estate bills, and hopefully they'll be out around Labor Day.
All right. Anyone have any questions of Mr. Grindstaff? Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 7, we'll have a monthly update from the Martinsville Henry County Economic Development Corporation. We have with us Mark Keith. Mark, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Looking at our activities for August in business development, Valerie Harper's been quite busy. We had a virtual workshop, as most are these days, on getting your products on store shelves. That was held on, or will be held rather, on September 15th. That's our next one. Valerie conducted 16 in-person meetings when you can see the businesses represented there. Our people are getting out and talking to folks in a responsible way to see what we can do to help them. We also have some discretionary grants from $200 to $500 mini grants. They can be for marketing or capital investment projects that must be completed by October 31, so they can contact our office and Valerie Harper for those. You can see the activities, the Henry County CARES Fund, City of Martinsville CARES Act that Valerie is involved in. She's helping on those committees and will continue to do so as long as those are needed. In our marketing division, we created, as always, the unemployment rate chart of the month, and you'll see that for the first time since since March of this year, we've dropped back down under 10%. We had a spike in April, but we're now back in the counties at 9.6, so we're thankful for that and glad that the unemployment rate is going in the right direction. We've had 2 third-party requests for information this month. We have resubmitted a Southside Economic Development Grant to the Baptist Commission. We're partnering with the county on that for improvements to Lot 4 and 9 North at the Patriot Center. We hope to find out about that in mid-September. We continue to work with Catherine Van Noy, who has been hired by the Harvest Foundation to find grant funding available, and our staff, particularly Sarah, has been doing a lot of work there, Sarah Hodges, and hopefully we'll have some good news in the near future about that. But Catherine's done a great job for us in a lot of areas. Spencer's added two new sites, the Black Feather Trail and the Old Sand Road site to our inventory this month. We continue to do that, and we're finalizing the updates to our Yes Martinsville website. Tourism staff had 18 consultations with, and you can see those clients listed. They're doing the same thing our business development division is doing. Most of these activities, tourism is very busy, but you'll see that these meetings are all either Zoom meetings or webinars or virtual, but a lot of things are going on. We've updated the printed venue guide, which lists all of our venues. Again, the Dick and Willie Trail is being well utilized. There were 6,653 folks there in July, so we've been running between 6,500 and 7,500 on that area that we are monitoring. Our tourism staff has a new program called Trail Takers Art Program. They've bought 12 pieces of art from local artisans, and they're going to be hidden on the trail. Clues will be given out for those, and one piece will be given away each week from the 4th, starting the 4th of September through the 20th of November. You can find out more about that at visitmartinsville.com. We've also revised, or they have, the tourism folks, our sports planning guide for 21. They have created a schedule for a day's drive. This year, we're going to be filming at Smith River Outfitters and Piedmont Arts. Both will be done in September. E-newsletters went to 14,000 folks, and to 190 tourism partners. We're working with WSLS for a couple articles this fall on biking on the Dick and Willie Trail and Smith River fishing to help bring folks to our community. And our visitor center did reopen on July the 7th. We have restricted hours Tuesday through Friday from 9 to 3. And last month we've had 29 guests, and which is good as we ramp back up. And you can see we've gotten 4 packet requests from 3 different states that people are looking for places to go. So we're encouraged by that. In our talent development division, Sarah Hodges continues to work with our child care task force with the Uptown partnership, and what we're trying to do to improve that part of our community. We're working on the housing project, several housing projects with Jeff Sadler and Sarah working on. There was, on August 19th, there was an event for Virginia Veterans and Military Affairs Conference that we attended. And this year, our mixed program is where we take educators into industry. Will be done through video, will be done virtually, will be at Bassett Furniture and a press class, so we're excited about that. And Sarah continues to work with Catherine and others to get additional grants to continue the expansion of our trail program. I'll be glad to answer any particular questions you have.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8 will take up financial matters. 8A, an award of contract reference in the ambulance for public safety. Mr. Hall.
Public Safety Director Matt Tatum is asking the board to award a contract in the amount of $249,330 to Vest Sales and Services for a new ambulance. The ambulance will improve staff's ability to respond and treat patients experiencing symptoms of COVID-19. Vest Sales and Service has been approved as a sole source vendor for county ambulances, and staff is recommending that we use Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security, or CARES Act funds to be used for this purchase. And we have been assured that the ambulance will be delivered prior to December 30th, 2020. And Mr. Tatum is here should you have any questions.
Okay, with that background, what is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend awarding the contract to Vest Sales and Service Incorporated in the amount of $249,330 for a new ambulance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Is 6-0, Jennifer. 8B, a consideration of performance agreements with Drake Extrusion and Applied Felts Veritex Solutions. Mr. Hall.
Because of the ongoing pandemic response, economic development announcements have transitioned from the regular in-person announcement to the issuance of press releases from the governor's office. Two companies located in Henry County, Drake Extrusion and Applied Felts / Ferritex Solutions, announced expansions earlier this year via this new method. The Board of Supervisors is being asked to formally approve the performance agreements for each of these expansions, and the Henry County Industrial Development Authority also will consider approval of these documents. We historically do not like to announce projects until we have the paperwork signed, but these are unusual times. So the announcements were done, the deals were done, and we finally had been able to get the final paperwork to circulate for approval.
Okay, the board has extensive attachments that they've had time to review, and as with all performance agreements, no money is doled out until the performance is met. Is that correct, Mr. Hall?
That's correct, and only one of these has local incentive money outside of the standard enterprise zone. The Drake Extrusion has a Harvest Foundation grant of $100,000, which comes to us as the locality, and we disseminate that according to the specifics of the agreement. So things have changed greatly over the last few years. No one extends grant money until benchmarks are hit to receive that grant.
With that, and since we have three different agreements, we can collectively approve all three in one motion if the board so chooses.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board approve the performance agreements as outlined in the working papers.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any question or discussion? All in favor? It's 6-0, Jennifer. Agenda item number 9, informational items. We'll start with a couple of handouts that you have at your desk. 9A, a declaration of emergency. Mr. Hall.
On August 21st, 2020, we declared a local state of emergency in response to significant flooding occurring in the county, as allowed under section 44-146, period 21 of the Code of Virginia. As part of that process, the governing body of the locality must take official action to authorize that declaration and, when appropriate, to declare the emergency to be over. Attached is the official declaration, a resolution declaring it to have been enforced and now closed, and a copy of the Code of Virginia, which outlines the entire process.
With that, what's the pleasure of the board in taking action on this?
Mr. Chairman, I recommend approval of the official declaration of emergency and the proclamation of the Board of Supervisors declaring the emergency to be over.
Second.
We have a motion, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Is 6-0, Jennifer. And those involved, staff, emergency responders, public safety, you're be commended as to how quick we were out there mitigating what could have been just horrible for a number of people. Thank you so much. You also have as a handout in front of you, before we take comments from the board, a Board of Supervisors report on CARES Act. I'm going to ask Mr. Hall. He mentioned that he's got some extensive items to cover in regard to CARES Act, and this may be only a portion of it, but Mr. Hall, if you'll take that up at this time.
Yes, sir. As you know, we have received two allowances or allocations from the CARES Act. Each of those is roughly $4.4 million. The second one you'll be asked to act on tonight as part of the budget adjustment, which is required. But I wanted to give you kind of an update on how we're maneuvering through this and what we hope to do going forward. I have this report in front of you. I won't read all these to you, but I want to emphasize a couple of them. The first one, we made the decision early on that should we need to telecommute or telework in the future, we were not really prepared to do that. So we use CARES Act money to replace our desktop computers with docking stations and laptops. Which means that when it's in the dock at your office, you can use it as if you would a desktop. But should you have to leave or go home for a while on work, you take the laptop out of its dock and you have your desktop in front of you. You have all the information that you would have on your desktop. So our IS staff did a phenomenal job of replacing roughly 144 of these workstations over the last 2 weeks. We thought it would take up to a month, but they did a tremendous job in getting those out and getting them in place. We also updated some computer units on our ambulances. Our building inspection officials now have the ability to do permitting within their vehicle because of new computers and new docking stations within their vehicles. They do not have to come in the office. to do that, which helps limit the interspersal of folks coming in. Cybersecurity training, you're familiar with that. We're updating filtration and HVAC systems in both the courthouse and this building. Down to our small business grant program, we set aside roughly $250,000 for that grant program. We have expended roughly $190,000 of that $250,000 so far, with I think 75 to 77 approvals. We've gotten a significant number of new applications this week, and the committee will meet later this week to determine how to move forward with those. I will tell you that we have received 2 applications from businesses in Henry County, Georgia. So I'm pretty sure we will decline those. I guess sometimes you type faster than you think when you're on the keyboard. We have added a 3rd position in our off-site 911. As you know, we have 2 911 centers, the one here in this building and a backup center down at the public safety complex, where 2 dispatchers usually work. We're adding a 3rd spot to that in order to do a better job, or do an even better job of separation of duties, and folks have to relocate. We have somewhere else to go. We dealt with the school board on some of their issues. Our money was more fluid than theirs, and at the start of school, they needed some things that they were having trouble securing with their own CARES Act money. So I talked to Mrs. Sandy Strayer, and we came up with a couple of things. We spent some money on what's called a Khajiit MiFi device. If a student is in their home and they have cell service but no Wi-Fi or no internet service, they can use this item through their cell service to get internet access. So we bought a number of those. We bought some iPads, iPad tripods for teachers to film their classes, to film their lessons, and be able to disperse those more easily to their students. And we're ready and willing and able to work with them as we move forward to do whatever else we can do to help them, because it's a trying time for everybody, teachers, students, administrators, parents, all of those. We made a donation for child care services. The overall request from the United Way was $160,000 to help with child care issues. We agreed with the city staff to do that 2/3, 1/3, as we normally do with joint expenditures. So our share of that is $106,000. This will allow the United Way to provide a regular weekly stipend to families who are seeking child care, try to buy down what they have to pay out of their pocket. There are numerous other ones there, but going forward, we're going to need some action on a couple of items. CARES Act allows us to pay a hazard duty supplement to EMS and to law enforcement. We can pay that based out of the CARES money based on the number of hours that employee works on COVID-related items. We've done a lot of research on this. Daryl Jones and his staff have done a tremendous job trying to figure out how to handle this program. Some localities are doing $2 per hour per employee. Some are doing $3. What we're going to ask you to do is to prove a policy that we can do up to $3 per hour based on the time cards that are turned in and how we can certify that they are COVID-related hours. We have a couple of stipulations in here that we would hope that you would put in the form of a motion shortly. This will be from March 1st to August 31st. That's the parameters of when these hours would have been worked, that we would pay out of this first hazard duty supplement. To receive that supplement, the employee must be employed by us on September the 1st. If someone worked part of it and has left our employee, this will not apply to them, just to the employees who are with us through September the 1st. For this first period of March 1st through August 31st, we're estimating that this will cost us roughly $500,000 in CARES Act money. We would anticipate looking at a second supplement for these employees from September 1st to December 30th, which is when the deadline is to spend up all the CARES money. But we'll take that in a second bite if and when we have to get there. No other county employees are eligible for CARES Act hazard duty supplements. However, everybody that's worked has worked under some strenuous circumstances. Perhaps they haven't been front lines, but they have had some issues to either come to work or deal with clients that come in, that sort of thing. So as we move forward, we're going to ask you to allow staff or to direct staff to research a way to use current county money to provide some sort of supplement to the other employees. Specifically, CARES Act goes to EMS and law enforcement. We want to investigate ways to use our own money to provide something for everybody else. Because the folks at the window who take the payments, the folks who work in the registrar's office, the folks who work in our office, there's an interaction with the public every day. And at some point, everybody has probably been a little uncomfortable with an interaction with somebody that they weren't sure of when they came in. So you see two motions that I have suggested for you at the bottom. The first is about the hazard duty supplement, and the second motion would be to direct us as staff to work on a plan for the other employees. So that's kind of the quick synopsis of that. I'll be glad to elaborate on anything or answer anything you have, but at the end, we would ask that you consider these two motions, which will allow us to move forward.
Mr. Hall, what is the qualifying personnel?
EMS and law enforcement who are with us on September the 1st.
So that's the qualifying.
That's the group that is allowed to receive hazard duty supplements through the CARES Act.
Okay.
But
Mr. Hall, the 144 desktop units, are they going into surplus?
no, what we did was we roll them down to less intensive uses. Then as we get to the bottom and we roll them off, we had two options. One was to sell them on a website for government
Right.
deals, and you get pennies on the dollar.
Right.
What we decided to do was to donate those to the Boys and Girls Club, to the YMCA, and to the
Good.
United Way.
Good.
For use in their after school, and United Way is going to disperse what we gave them to other, maybe smaller, entities that they're more aware of than we are.
Good.
And fire and rescue as well.
Perfect.
Other questions? What's the pleasure of the board in regard to, we'll have to take them separate, the motions with these policy changes that's recommended?
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize the expenditure of CARES Act funds for the payment of a hazard duty supplement to county EMS and law enforcement personnel up to $3 per hour per qualifying employee for COVID-related hours between March 1st, 2020 and August 31st, 2020. Qualifying personnel must be employed by Henry County on September 1st, 2020 to receive the supplement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? It's 6-0, Jennifer. And in regard to the second motion,
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to direct staff to work on a plan to provide additional compensation to county employees not included in the hazardous duty supplement, and to bring that to the board at a future date for consideration.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? It's 6-0, Jennifer. Mr. Hall, any other things surrounding this particular
And
subject?
I have some other items, but not specifically.
All right, we'll begin with taking, at this time, informational items, comments from the board, beginning with Ms. Desire.
No, sir.
Dr. Martin.
Yes, sir. Last month, when we had the Comcast representative here, I put him on the spot and asked him to meet with the school system about any additional expansion of Wi-Fi. There has been a discussion, and there are two items that have come out of that discussion, one of which is for those students who cannot afford internet, Comcast has asked for their names, and they are going to talk with the parents about providing internet service. For those where Comcast does not go to where they live, Comcast has asked for their addresses so they can provide to those parents the closest hotspot. So there are just some discussions to kind of moving forward a little bit.
Great. It's very beneficial to all concerned. Thank you. Mr. Bryant.
Yes, sir. It's kind of directed maybe towards Dale and Mr. Hall both. You know, the Fiddle Collinsville was trying to get a new ambulance, and of course things was put on hold during the COVID. Do we see any time in the near future that maybe funds would be released from the county to help on that ambulance?
We really haven't focused on that yet because we're still swimming upstream with Corona. I anticipate at some point we will bring to you some readjustments or perhaps reopenings of some budget items. You know, we said initially we'd get to July 1 and
Yeah.
look at 6 months, which would be the end of the calendar year. So I would imagine we would have something for you towards the end of the calendar year for some recommendations.
Okay. Yeah, I told him I would just at least check. I think maybe Darrell Hatcher's been contacting Matt, possibly. But anyway, I just wanted to let them know kind of where we stood, if there was any closer period or anything like that, or we're still out. So
Well,
it hadn't
you
really
guys know,
changed.
We put a lot of stuff on the shelf,
Yeah, I know.
and we'll start to take that off one by one as we can get to it.
Yeah, okay. That's all I got.
Ms. Buchanan?
No, sir.
Mr. Slaughter? I have one item, and it is COVID-related. How much business is now being conducted in the building versus still using Dropbox and that?
We're 99% open. A lot of folks are still using the Dropbox, which is good. A lot of folks are still using for the PSA, the online transaction. To my knowledge, we've only really had less than a handful of folks who came in, did not have a mask, and we offered them one, or if they did not want it or couldn't take it for whatever reason medically, we have arranged for them to be outside, and whomever the staff person that they needed to contact would come outside and talk to them. I'm not aware of anything that's turned even the slightest bit negative or confrontational. I think our citizens have been phenomenal in dealing with it. Quite frankly, the one issue we've had is with some vendors who have popping in and out of different places and don't have masks. And we were kidding in our staff meeting this morning, Dale and myself and J.R. Powell are kind of like crossing guards. We're catching them and we're telling them to put masks on, and they comply. We really only had one incident where there was any kind of kickback, and we told them that that's their opinion and we could choose another vendor if we had to. And surprisingly, they all found masks and put them on. It's amazing how that worked.
Well, again, my reason, and you stated it briefly in support of some of the CARES considerations that we have for the future, that we do have a number of folks on the front line, a number that have answers in the event of an emergency. And I'm heading in the direction of, can we manage, as we have in the past, if this board chooses to take action of allowing a half a day prior to the Labor Day holiday, can we manage the activities in the building?
Absolutely could. Be most appreciative.
With that, what's the pleasure of the board in offering to our employees half day off on the Friday prior to Labor Day?
Can we get half a day off too?
I'm sorry.
I'll approve that day for you, Joe.
We'll approve that day for you, Joe.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? All in favor? It's 6-0, Jennifer. Mr. Hall.
Two other items. One is mine, and then Mr. Pace is going to take over at the end and update you on the Dick and Willie progress for 6A. But the last thing I have is to remind you that VDOT will have a public hearing on the environmental impact study on the Martinsville Southern Connector. That will be next Tuesday, September the 1st. Because of the times, they're going to have it at the picnic shelter at Jack Dalton Park. It'll be from 3 to 7. You can drop in, provide comments. They are highly encouraging folks to go online and make their comments and not have to attend that meeting. But should you want to attend the meeting, it's Tuesday, September the 1st at Jack Dalton Park from 3 to 7. And now I'm going to ask Mr. Pace to step up and update you on the Dick and Willie.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Mr. Hall wanted me to give you folks an update on the next phase of the Dick and Willie passage. Back up just a little bit just to give a little background. So the Dick and Willie passage is currently made up of basically 2 trail segments. One is from the Virginia Avenue trailhead to the Mulberry Creek Overlook, which is about 4.5 miles. That was the first one that we did. And the other is from the Spruce Street trailhead to the Smith River Sports Complex river access, which is about 3.2 miles, and that's the one we just completed here recently. There are 2 spur trails off of that. There's the Uptown Spur, which is 0.63 miles, and the Silver Bell, which is 0.28 miles. So that's where we are today. There's a gap between the first project we did and the one we just completed, and that is Phase 6A. So Phase 6A is the overall project has been designed and awaits authorization from VDOT to bid for construction. Similar to the original 3.2 miles of the trail, Phase 6A has been designed and will be constructed in accordance with the Virginia Department of Transportation 2020 Road and Bridge specifications, the 2016 Road and Bridge standards, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, and the Americans with Disabilities Act. That's a lot of regulations to have to follow. This trail segment will connect the Mulberry Creek Overlook to the Spruce Street trailhead, which will add 3 miles to the total length. And once this is complete, the entire length from the Virginia Avenue trailhead, which is there at El Parral, to the Smith River Sports Complex river access, would make that a total of 10.7 miles in one direction, which is a big milestone for other activities on the trail. The new section of trail consists of 1.6 miles of 10-foot wide asphalt along the Mulberry Creek corridor, a bridge over Mulberry Creek, 0.26 miles of another 10-foot wide asphalt to Spruce Street. There will be a marked road crossing with warning system at Spruce Street, modern modification to the existing sidewalk along Spruce Street, and 1,500 feet of new sidewalk from Hunting Ridge Road to the Spruce Street trailhead. So that's the basis of the project. One of the major design elements of this portion of the project has been the Spruce Street trail crossing. And I thought I'd bring up some of the items that have been designed for that. And no screen there. So behind you is an exhibit showing where the crossing will be at Spruce Street. So we're coordinating with the city of Martinsville and the VDOT to extend the existing 35 mile per hour zone from Spruce Street extension to just south of Courthouse Trail, which is an approximate half a mile speed zone adjustment. So as you going out of the city of Martinsville onto Spruce Street, we're looking to extend the 35 mile per hour zone just past Courthouse Trail. And to improve some site distance, the contractor will clear approximately 530 feet of trees and vegetation within the right-of-way southeast of the proposed trail crossing. A 45 mile per hour site distance requirement was used, even though this will be a 35 mile per hour zone, just to build in some level of safety there. Installation of additional bike on road signs will be installed along Spruce Street. Also to be installed is bike and pedestrian crosswalk ahead signs with lights approximately 450 feet south, 350 feet north of Spruce Street Trail crossing. Install proper color and size pavement markings delineating the trail crossing. And the big item would be the installation of advanced radio controlled crosswalk warning system, which is similar to the one they have on Lester Street. If you ever have seen that, there's a picture up there of what that looks like. And the key components to that is, so with the trail users will see a flashing red light when the system is activated by a vehicle that's sensed along Spruce Street. So when a car is going down Spruce Street, the sensors will pick it up when they actually start flashing a red light to the trail users, whether it be pedestrians or bikers. And the road users will see a flashing yellow light when the system is activated by either a cyclist or a pedestrian via a push button. And the reason we went with the push button is we just didn't want folks to just start walking right out in the road. We want to stop, push a button, and be able to look both ways. As far as scheduling, we anticipate VDOT authorization to bid the project within the next 45 days. There's some environmental items that we have to finish up for the permitting. Hope to award the contract by late November, early December, and this will be a 12-month construction period and hope to be completed by the end of 2021. if we don't have any rain like we did the last time. That's it. Any questions?
Any questions at this time? Thank you.
Let me add just a couple of things to what Tim just said. In a perfect world, clearly, we would want to intersect the current 6B directly across from Spruce, on Spruce Street where the bathroom is. That's what we wanted to do. Access to that land to make it connect that way was not available, so we had to move it back up toward Spruce Street and use whatever access that we had. So that's why we were doing it that way. There's also been some conversation or some requests that we build a bridge over Spruce Street for pedestrian traffic. That's not financially viable to do that. And I think the system that VDOT's proposed and that Tim has worked with, and Leon Tornitzky at the city's been involved in this as well, to try to create the best possible crossing, safest crossing. I think this is what we have, and that we'll do our best to make that work. And hopefully at the end of the day, it'll be just like the one on Lester Street, which a lot of folks are familiar with and is pretty easy to use. So that's what we're trying to get.
Great, thank you. Do you have any other informational items, Mr. Hall?
No, sir.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to go into closed meeting if someone will cite the items.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go into closed meeting of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act under 2.23711A1 for discussion of appointees to the Southern Virginia Recreational Facility Authority, 2.23711A7 for discussion of pending legal matters, 2.23711A3 for discussion of acquisition, disposal of real estate, and 2.23711A5 for discussion of as yet unannounced industries.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? It's 6-0, Jennifer. See everyone upstairs for 5 minutes. Board came out of closed meeting on a motion by Mr. Bryant, second by Mr. Zara. Mr. Hall, will you certify the board?
Certifying closed session that you discussed, only lawfully exempted items that were cited in the motion enter closed session.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Mark?
Yes, sir.
Brian?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Slaughter?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes, sir. There are no action items by the board coming out of closed meeting. Mr. Hall, do you have anything before we recess?
No, sir.
Board members, do you have anything before we recess? We'll stand in recess till our 6 p.m. session. I'll call the 6 p.m. session of the August 25th, 2020 meeting of the Henry County Board of Supervisors back to order from our recess. I'd like to welcome all the visitors, remind you that if you want to address the board, you must sign up 7 days in advance of this meeting to be put on the agenda. The county administrator is the contact person for the board. However, the public may address the board under the agenda item matters presented by the public later in this meeting tonight. Again, welcome everyone. Our first item of consideration tonight is general highway matters. We have with us Lisa Hughes and David Kaiser from VDOT. Welcome.
Thank you. I've only got a couple things to share with you tonight. One, I think you've got the PowerPoint presentation that I'll just kind of walk through. I won't read the slides, but VDOT's got a lot of things going on 220 in Henry, Franklin, and Roanoke County. And you can see some examples of those projects, but they're all geared towards congestion and safety improvements and access and for current and future economic development. The project I really wanted to talk about, and some of you may be aware of this, I'm sure you are, because we talked about it last year a little bit with Mr. King when he came down. But the project I wanted to talk to you about is the signal improvements at the Signalized intersection there at Bassett Forks. It is one of 7 intersections that we're doing similar work to modify the signal timings. And why I wanted to come tonight, we're getting ready to do a public outreach, and I want to kind of get you ahead of that, which will be going on in September. What we're going to do is what's changing. The only thing that is changing is if you're coming out of Hillcrest Park, you won't be able to go straight across to the Speedway and the Wilco. You'll have to take a left, and then you can take that first right and get to the same place. Same thing out of the Speedway, Bojangles. You'll have to take a right. You won't be able to come straight through back to Hillcrest Park. That's the only movement that'll be affected. And that amounts to only about 1% of the whole traffic volume in that intersection. But taking that movement away is going to be a big benefit to the traffic flow through there. And you'll see what stays the same, everything else. You just won't be able, this is called a through cut. You just won't be able to go straight across from either of the side streets. You can go right, you can go left, but no straight across either way. And the next few slides just show you what a four-phase signal is. You know, you got it, 220 moves, everything stops. Left turns move, everything stops. One side street moves, stops, you know, and the other side street moves and everything stops. And what that does is causes delay. We know how congested that intersection can be. So taking out that one phase that only serves probably 1% of the traffic volume is gonna make big improvements to that intersection. And you'll see that the other 7 locations from here to Roanoke, we're doing the same thing. And the goal is to make traffic on 220 smoother and flow better. Because we all know 220 is a corridor of statewide significance, and that's why we're focused on the whole corridor. But the benefits of doing this simple adjustment really is similar to adding an extra lane onto 220 at only 10% of the cost. So taking away that one movement, I lost my train of thought, is gonna actually give more time to 220. It's gonna give more time really to the side streets and the left turn. So it's a benefit for everybody, not just 220. Gives more green time to all the traffic movements. And again, I think this almost towards the end, it says one project, 7 intersections, multiple regional and local benefits. That lists the intersections that we'll be doing similarly. And again, we go over how it's a win-win for everything. And the big bullet I wanted to point out to you is without these improvements, traffic congestion is expected to constrain future growth and travel along the 220 corridor from Roanoke to Martinsville. So this will be a big benefit, and you all are kind of getting a preview. And that's why this presentation is labeled draft. It's actually not finished, but I wanted to get it to you before the public involvement started. The preliminary engineering is almost done. It's not complete, but it's close. And the virtual public involvement is scheduled to be September 2020. And what that means is Facebook, advertisements that to show what we're trying to do at these intersections. Web pages, videos, all that's currently under development. Survey and opportunity for comment too, and we're working on that now. The big thing is we want to do this, begin construction next year on all of these. So do any of you have any questions about what we're trying to do? There's one of these slides here that show a typical intersection with a little splitter island that prohibits you from going straight through an intersection. And that's all I had for that one. Just give you a heads up because it's coming. It's coming next month. The only other thing I had was the public hearing for the Martinsville Southern Connector. And that will be next Tuesday from 3 to 7 at Jack Dalton Park. This is the first public hearing in the state that we have held since the pandemic. So it's gonna be different, but it's gonna work. So,
Does anyone have any questions?
Did they do any studies on the left turn caution lights to speed up the traffic so they wouldn't have to stop?
yes, but you would still, it still doesn't result in as much benefit. It's just removing the through phases.
'Cause it looks like everywhere I've seen those, that the traffic don't back up in that turn lane
And we
and
do
it
a
don't
lot
have to
of that.
turn,
Mhm.
so.
We're still doing those where we can, yes. Okay.
Okay,
Quick question, Lisa, the Virginia Enhancements Program where you was gonna do that red light intersects, walk cross down near the Dutch Inn, or
Yes.
is that still on?
Scheduled for that, David. The sidewalk. It's not an enhancement, it's actually a smart scale project.
Yeah,
The sidewalk at Najar, 220. Yeah, that's our smart scale.
the one on the smart scale for down to Dutch Inn where we was doing safety crosswalk and stuff.
The lighting and everything.
Nice.
Trunk walk.
Just wondering what the status is on that. I thought it was supposed to be somewhere in,
It
Couple
was a
years
smart
ago,
scale, yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, it went up on the smart scale, it's.
We'll have to check
It was
because-
already approved to be done.
It seems like it was 20, I hate to say, but it seems like it was 21, 22. I think back when we set the date, it seemed like a long way away, but I think,
Phase two, that was like a 1 year length period for it.
but I'll let you know.
Call and let me know.
We'll look at the schedule again.
Lisa, any progress on 58 and Parkland, stopped up culvert and that hillside?
No, but we have got the materials in, and we plan on doing that pretty soon here, probably within the next 2-3 weeks.
Have you gotten many calls?
No, I haven't.
I have.
You can give them my number.
I'll continue to get them, that's
And
all.
you can give my number, and I'll be glad to explain it to you. And we got the mowing done, where we talked about.
Good,
so.
thank you.
Get the sweeping done. The gravels.
No. We've got a lot more to get. Oh, there.
Yeah.
Yes. We still got work to do there.
all right. Any other items? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is Agenda Item 12, a public hearing, proposed amendment to the FY 2021 total county budget. Mr. Hall?
The county has received an additional $4,410,903 in coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security, or CARES Act of 2020 funds. The CARES Act provides that the funds may be used to cover costs that are necessary expenditures incurred due to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19, were not accounted for in the county's current budget, and were incurred during the period of March 1, 2020 through December 30, 2020. The board must hold a public hearing in order to amend the FY 2021 budget and appropriate these funds. Whenever a budget is altered by more than 1% of that total budget, a public hearing is required. Following the public hearing, staff will ask the board to approve an appropriation of $4,410,903, and the public hearing has been advertised and scheduled for this evening.
I will open the public hearing at 6:11 p.m. to take input. Is there anyone wishing to address the board during this public hearing? Seeing no hands, I will close the public hearing at 6:11. What is the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve the appropriation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? It is 6-0, Jennifer. Agenda item 13, public hearing for change to the local ordinance referencing courthouse security fees. Mr. Hall?
The Virginia General Assembly recently passed legislation allowing localities to increase courthouse and courtroom security fees to $20. Henry County currently has an ordinance authorizing a $10 fee. Following discussion at the last month's meeting, the board set a public hearing for tonight on this topic. In your working papers, you have a memo from Mr. Lyle and also a copy of the public hearing notice.
I'll open the public hearing at 6:12 to take input on this. Is there anyone wishing to address the board during this public hearing? Seeing no hands, I will close the public hearing at 6:12. What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we approve the changes to the local ordinance setting the courthouse and courtroom security fees to $20.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Is 6-0, Jennifer. Agenda item 14, matters presented by the public. Is there anyone wishing to address the board on the matters presented by the public? Seeing no hands or indication of such, Mr. Hall, do you have any other items of business for the board's consideration?
No, sir, I do not.
Board members, do you have any? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? It's 6-0, Jennifer. Everyone have a good